The private dining room at Lou Bernardine hummed with the familiar sound of my family's disappointment in me. Crystal stemware caught the soft lighting, making the expensive wine in their glasses sparkle as they discussed my latest failure. I sat quietly, cutting my perfectly cooked salmon while my sister Amanda held court, her new engagement ring flashing with every dramatic gesture. So there I was, she was saying, closing the Anderson merger, $100 million deal mind you, when Sarah calls asking for business advice. She used air quotes, making our mother chuckle. As if her little startup could handle real corporate strategy. Dad, executive VP at Maxwell Industries, nodded sagely. At least she's asking for help now. Better late than never. I didn't actually I started, but Mom cut me off. Darling, we're just concerned. You left a perfectly good job at Dad's company to be your own boss. More air quotes. And what do you have to show for it? A tiny office in that dreadful WeWork space. If they only knew that tiny office was actually the entire top floor of the WeWork building, which I own through one of my holding companies. I manage, I said quietly, taking another bite of salmon. Manages to lose money, Amanda Stage whispered to Dad, who tried to hide his smirk behind his wine glass. Speaking of managing, Mom brightened. Amanda, tell Sarah about your promotion. Amanda preened, adjusting her Cartier watch, a gift from Dad for following the right path in business. Well, since you asked, I'm being made junior partner at Maxwell next month. Youngest ever. That's wonderful, I murmured, checking my phone under the table. A message from my CFO. Final paperwork signed. Maxwell Industries merger announcement set for tomorrow. Should we move it up? See, Sarah? Dad leaned forward, entering lecture mode. That's what happens when you follow the traditional corporate path. Amanda started in the mailroom dash. Actually, Daddy, I started as your executive assistant, Amanda corrected. Right. Worked her way up properly. None of this disruption nonsense you're always talking about. I thought about the documents sitting in my office safe, papers that would disrupt their world beyond recognition in about 14 hours. Still playing entrepreneur? Amanda smirked. What's this company called again? Phoenix something. Phoenix Digital Solutions, I supplied, though they never remembered. Such a pretentious name, Mom sighed. Darling, there's no shame in admitting defeat. I'm sure your father could find you something entry-level at Maxwell. That's right, Dad nodded. The mailroom's always hiring. Though, he chuckled, you might have to report to your sister soon. Amanda's laugh tinkled like expensive ice. Can you imagine? Sarah taking orders from her little sister? Though it would be better than whatever she's doing now. I took another sip of wine, thinking about the real reason I'd suggested dinner tonight. In exactly 3 minutes, their perfectly ordered world would start to crumble. How many employees do you even have? Amanda pressed. 2, 3. Something like that, I said, not mentioning the 300 people in my main office or the 2,000 across our global operations. And what exactly does your company do? Mom asked, making those infuriating air quotes again. Before I could answer, the private dining room's door opened. Charles Maxwell himself, CEO of Maxwell Industries and my father's boss for 30 years, walked in. Dad nearly dropped his wine glass. Charles. What a surprise. Richard. Charles boomed. Glad I caught you all. I was having dinner with some board members and heard you were here. Please join us, Mom gushed, already calculating the social capital of having the CEO at her table. Charles's eyes swept the table, landing on me with a knowing glint. Actually, I came to see Sarah. Silence fell over the table like an expensive tablecloth. Sarah. Amanda's voice had risen an octave. Why would you dash? There's my new business partner. Charles declared, pulling up a chair. I've been trying to reach you all evening about tomorrow's announcement. Mom's fork clattered to the floor. Partner. Dad's face had gone an interesting shade of purple. There must be some mistake. No mistake, Richard. Charles smiled broadly. Though I suppose partner isn't quite accurate anymore, given the merger terms. Amanda's perfectly glossed lips formed a small O of confusion. Merger. Didn't Sarah tell you? Charles looked around the table with artificial surprise. Phoenix Digital Solutions is acquiring controlling interest in Maxwell Industries. The papers were signed this morning. The silence that followed was worth every moment of the past 5 years of their condescension. But that's impossible, Dad sputtered. Phoenix is just a small startup. Small. Charles laughed. Sarah, you really haven't told them anything, have you? I smiled, dabbing my lips with the napkin. I tried. They were too busy planning Amanda's partner party. That reminds me, Charles turned to Amanda, whose face had gone from confused to horrified. About that junior partner position. The silence that had fallen over the table was broken only by the soft clink of my knife against fine china as I continued eating my salmon. 5 years of careful planning had led to this moment, and I intended to savor every second. This is absurd, Dad finally managed, his face cycling through various shades of red. Sarah's company it's nothing. Just a small consulting firm. Charles raised an eyebrow. Is that what you think Phoenix Digital Solutions is? Richard, your daughter's small consulting firm revolutionized the entire tech industry. Where do you think Maxwell's recent digital transformation came from? Mom's hand flew to her throat, clutching her pearls. But that was Amanda's project. Actually, I spoke up. Amanda was just the face of the project. My team did all the work, under a different company name, of course. Amanda's perfectly manicured hand gripped her wine glass so hard I thought it might shatter. That's not true. I led that transformation. I have the presentations, the reports dash. The presentations my team prepared? I interrupted softly. The reports you put your name on without understanding a single line of code? Charles nodded. We knew about that, by the way. It was quite impressive watching Sarah's team quietly fix all your modifications. The color drained from Amanda's face as she remembered all the times she'd improved our proposals, improvements that had nearly tanked the entire project until my real team stepped in to salvage them. But the board meetings, Dad protested weakly. Amanda presented to the board. And I sat in the back, I reminded him, as Elena Stone, the technical consultant, you never bothered to acknowledge. Remember how you made me wait in the hallway while Amanda took credit for my quarterly projections? Mom's hands were shaking as she reached for her wine. This doesn't make sense. Sarah's company, it's just her. In that awful shared office space. Actually, Mrs. Bennett, Charles interjected, Phoenix Digital occupies the entire building. Sarah owns it through one of her holding companies, along with most of the tech corridor downtown. The waiter chose that moment to arrive with dessert menus. One look at our table, Dad's purple face, Mom's trembling hands, Amanda's mascara starting to run, and he wisely retreated. But the Anderson merger, Amanda whispered, her voice small. My $100 million deal was actually a $1 billion deal, I corrected gently. After my team restructured it. Did you ever wonder why those technical consultants kept revising your numbers? Charles checked his watch. Speaking of numbers, the press release goes live at midnight. Sarah, the Wall Street Journal wants an exclusive about the hidden powerhouse behind Maxwell's success. Dad's hand slammed down on the table, making the crystal water glasses jump. Tao, see here. I've been at Maxwell for 30 years. I built that digital division dash. You resisted it at every turn, Charles cut in, his voice suddenly hard. If Sarah hadn't secretly intervened, your stubborn adherence to traditional methods would have bankrupted us. Why do you think I approved this merger so quickly? Mom was frantically scrolling through her phone, probably reading about Phoenix Digital for the first time. $12 billion in assets. Global operations. Named most innovative company last year. This can't be right. Oh, it's right, I said, finally setting down my fork. All those cute little projects you mocked? Front companies for one of the largest tech conglomerates in the world. That waste of time you laughed about at Christmas? Just acquired our biggest competitor. Amanda's lower lip trembled. But my partner position will not be happening, I finished. Along with most of the executive positions created through nepotism rather than merit. You can't do this, Dad's voice was dangerous and low. I won't allow it. Charles actually laughed. Richard, as of tomorrow morning, Sarah will be your boss. In fact, he checked his phone, the paperwork just cleared. She already is. The sound of shattering glass made us all jump. Amanda's wine glass had slipped from her fingers, spreading an expensive red stain across the white tablecloth, rather like how news of this merger would spread across their carefully ordered world. I think, I said, standing up and smoothing my dress, the one Mom had called bargain basement earlier. It was Chanel. This is a good time to discuss tomorrow's organizational changes. First, I began, pulling out my tablet. Let's address the immediate changes. Dad, your office will need to be cleared out by noon tomorrow. Security will assist. You're firing your own father? Mom's voice rose to a pitch that made nearby wine glasses vibrate. Not firing, I corrected. Retiring. With a very generous package. More generous than he deserves, given the audit results. Dad's face went from purple to white. What audit? Charles grimaced. The one that revealed how you've been channeling company resources into Amanda's projects, Richard. The irregular promotions, the inflated budgets, the credit for other people's work. Amanda burst into tears, her expensive mascara creating dark rivers down her cheeks. But I earned those promotions. Did you? I pulled up a file on my tablet. Let's review your biggest achievement, the Anderson merger. Would you like to explain these reports? The ones you presented as your own work. I modified them, she stammered. You put your name on them, I corrected. After my team spent 6 months building the strategy. A strategy you nearly derailed with your improvements. Mom's hand was shaking so badly she had to set down her wine glass. But all those Society magazine articles, Amanda's interviews about being a young business prodigy, were all based on my work, I finished. Work that Dad made sure was credited to his successful daughter. Charles cleared his throat. The board was quite interested to learn about that, by the way, along with some other creative accounting regarding family expenses. Dad's face went even whiter. He knew exactly which expenses Charles meant. The business meetings that were actually family vacations, the client entertainment that paid for Amanda's engagement party, the office upgrades that renovated Mom's kitchen. You can't prove any of this, he blustered, but his voice lacked conviction. I smiled, sliding another document across the table. Actually, we can prove all of it. Which is why you're going to quietly retire, take your generous package and stay very, very quiet about everything you've learned tonight. Amanda was still crying, mascara now completely ruined. What about me? My position is being eliminated, I said firmly. Along with several other questionably created executive roles. However, I slid another document her way. I'm offering you an entry-level position in our actual digital transformation team. You can learn the work you've been taking credit for. Entry-level? She shrieked. I'm a senior executive. No, Charles corrected. You were playing at being a senior executive. There's a difference. Mom had finally found her voice again. Sarah, you can't do this to your family. After everything we've done for you, Done for me. I cut her off. You mean like mocking every company I built? Excluding me from family events because I was embarrassingly unsuccessful? Telling everyone I was having a breakdown when I refused Dad's entry-level job offer. The room was silent. I stood up and spoke calmly. The press release goes live in 4 hours. By tomorrow, every business news outlet will know that the failed daughter you always mocked is now your boss. And that little startup you laughed at? Phoenix Digital Solutions just bought Maxwell Industries in the biggest tech deal of the year. Dad looked shocked. The country club. They'll definitely hear about it, I said. Oh, and your membership is being cancelled. Company policy now. No more personal spending on business accounts. Charles, the board chair, stood up and fixed his tie. I'll head back to my dinner. Sarah, the board meets tomorrow at 9 a.m. See you then, CO. He walked out. Mom tried one last time. Sweetheart, let's talk this over. Just us as a family. I shook my head. We're not family anymore. We're co-workers. And in business, I smiled, thinking of all the times they laughed at me. What you do matters more than your last name. I picked up my bag and walked toward the door. Before leaving, I turned one last time. Oh, and Amanda, that corner office you were so proud of? I'm turning it into a coding boot camp for new hires. You'll be joining the class, if you accept the job. First session is Monday at 9. Don't be late. I shut the door behind me. Just before it closed, I heard Mom whisper, "What just happened?" I smiled to myself as I walked to my car. What happened was 5 years of hard work finally paying off. I didn't follow the path they wanted. I built my own. And it led me straight to the CEO's office. Tomorrow they'd wake up to headlines saying the failed daughter had taken over. Tomorrow they'd answer to me. But tonight I had a press release to finish, and a company to lead. Because in the end, merit matters more than blood. The next day, a Wall Street Journal article was on my desk with a photo that I knew would drive them crazy. Phoenix Rising: How Sarah Bennett Transformed the Tech World. The photo showed me in my father's old office, now mine, wearing the same Armani suit Mom once said looked cheap. Another headline read, Maxwell Industries stock soars 400% under new CEO. The failed daughter's comeback. My assistant Michael buzzed in. Your mom's here again. Third time this week. Let me guess. More investment ideas. She says her important friends want to meet with you. I laughed. These were the same people who ignored me at country club events for years. Tell her my calendar is full. As always. The past 6 months had been interesting. After the big announcement, my family went through every stage of denial. First, they pretended it wasn't real. Dad tried to block the merger. But his bad decisions and poor management made it easy for the board to support me. Then they got angry. Amanda threatened to sue, saying the digital changes were her idea. Our legal team showed proof she copied my reports, word for word. Next, they tried to make deals. Mom showed up daily with business tips from her wealthy friends. These were the same people who used to whisper that I'd never be as successful as Amanda. After that came embarrassment. Magazine covers told the truth. Maxwell Industries heir exposed as fraud. Bennett family nearly destroys tech giant with nepotism. It wasn't good press for Amanda, or for Dad's golf game. Now they're finally starting to accept it. Kind of. My phone buzzed again. Amanda was calling. Probably about her spot in the coding boot camp. To my surprise, she actually took the entry-level job. Her first day ended in tears. And a broken keyboard. The text message from Aunt Diana lit up my phone screen like a slap in the face. The Morton family reunion is this Saturday at the Imperial Grand. Don't bother coming. No failures allowed. I sat in my private office on the top floor of the Imperial Grand Hotel, surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city I'd conquered, and laughed. 5 years ago that message would have cut deep. Now it was just amusing. My phone buzzed again. We have standards to maintain. The Imperial Grand is the most exclusive hotel in the city. We can't have you embarrassing us again. I glanced at the massive oil painting hanging on my wall. The one showing 3 generations of the Wilson family, the hotel's previous owners, shaking hands with me after I bought their legendary hospitality empire for $300 million. Gosh. But Aunt Diana didn't know that. None of them did. To my family, I was still Sophia Morton, the great disappointment. The one who dropped out of law school to waste time in the hospitality industry. The failure who chose to work as a hotel maid instead of joining the family's prestigious law firm. They never knew that while cleaning rooms I was learning every aspect of hotel operations. They didn't know that my worthless job as a concierge taught me what luxury travelers really wanted. And they certainly didn't know that my time as a restaurant server helped me revolutionize high-end hotel dining. Another message popped up, this time from my cousin Victoria. Mom's right, Sophia. This is an important family gathering. We can't have you showing up in your work uniform again. My work uniform, these days, was custom-tailored Armani, but they wouldn't know that either. They still pictured me in the housekeeping uniform I'd worn 10 years ago, when I first started learning the hotel business from the ground up. Ms. Morton. My assistant Michael's voice came through the intercom. The quarterly revenue reports are ready for your review. And the Wilson family sent over the final ownership transfer documents for their Singapore properties. Thank you, Michael. And what about the family reunion booking for Saturday? Everything is arranged as requested. The Morton party has reserved our grand ballroom. They asked for our most expensive champagne package. Should I add it to their bill? I smiled, remembering how Aunt Diana had bragged on Facebook about hosting the reunion at the city's most exclusive venue. No, let them think it's complimentary. For now. I turned back to my phone where the family group chat was still buzzing with discussions about the reunion. My mother had joined in. Please understand, Sophia. Your aunt is just trying to maintain our family's reputation. The Imperial Grand is very selective about their clientele. As we were, but not in the way they thought. I opened my laptop and pulled up the guest profiles my staff had created for the Morton family reunion. Aunt Diana Morton attempted to use expired credit cards at 3 different luxury hotels last year. Cousin Victoria Morton complained about every hotel she'd ever stayed at, always demanding free upgrades. Uncle George Morton, known for sexually harassing female hotel staff. The entire family had been quietly blacklisted by most high-end hotels in the city. The only reason they got a reservation at the Imperial Grand was because I owned it. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my younger sister Lily, the only family member who knew the truth. "Oh me Sophia, are you really going to let them go through with this? They're being horrible." I typed back, "Don't worry. I have a plan." Lily was the exception to the family's collective delusion. She'd seen me work my way up from cleaning rooms to owning them. She'd been there when I took out my first business loan, when I bought my first small hotel, when I started building my empire. "Just promise me you'll record their faces when they find out," she messaged. "Already arranged," I replied. "Every security camera in the building will be recording." I leaned back in my chair, remembering the day 5 years ago when Aunt Diana had thrown me out of her house for embarrassing the family at her daughter's wedding. My crime? Telling the truth about Victoria's new husband and his history of investment fraud. 6 months later, when Victoria's husband was arrested for running a Ponzi scheme, no one apologized. They just pretended it never happened, like they pretended I didn't exist unless they needed someone to mock. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. "Come in." James Chin, my head of security, entered with a tablet in hand. "Ms. Morton, I've reviewed the security protocols for Saturday's event. Are you sure you want to wait until they're all inside before?" "Yes," I cut him off with a smile. "Let them get comfortable first. Let them order the expensive champagne. Let them brag to their friends about being at the Imperial Grand." He nodded, understanding in his eyes. James had been with me since my first hotel back when I was still learning the business. He'd seen how hard I'd worked, how much I'd sacrificed. "And their room reservations?" he asked. "Cancel them. All of them. The moment they try to check in, I want them to learn that their rooms are suddenly unavailable." "Even your parents?" I thought about my father's dismissive words when I told him I was leaving law school. "No daughter of mine will be a servant. If you walk away from law, you walk away from this family. Especially my parents." James made a note on his tablet. "And the ballroom setup? Remove everything except one table. One chair. Leave the chandeliers dark except for a single spotlight on that chair." "Psychological warfare," he grinned. "I like it." After James left, I walked to the window, looking down at the city that had watched me rise from maid to magnate. The Imperial Grand stood as a testament to everything I'd achieved. Not through family connections or inherited privilege, but through hard work and determination. My phone buzzed one more time. "Aunt Diana again. We've hired professional photographers. Try to understand, we can't have someone like you ruining the photos. The Imperial Grand has standards." I smirked, running my finger along the nameplate on my desk. "Sophia Morton, CEO and owner, Imperial Hospitality Group." "Oh, Aunt Diana," I murmured. "You have no idea what our standards really are." I spent the rest of the week reviewing every detail of my plan. The security cameras were adjusted to capture every possible angle. The staff was briefed. Those who had suffered from my family's entitled behavior over the years were particularly enthusiastic about what was coming. Friday night, I called Lily. "Are you ready for tomorrow?" "Born ready," she laughed. "I've got my video camera charged and everything." "But Sophia, are you sure about this? I mean, they're still family." I thought about all the family gatherings I'd been excluded from. All the times they'd mocked my career choices. All the years of being treated like a servant rather than a daughter. "They stopped being family the day they decided I was beneath them," I replied. "Tomorrow they learn exactly how wrong they were." That night I stood in my penthouse suite at the top of the Imperial Grand, laying out my outfit for the next day. Not the Armani suits I usually wore, but something specific. The very same housekeeping uniform I'd worn 10 years ago, carefully preserved as a reminder of where I'd started. Sometimes the best revenge doesn't need words. Sometimes it just needs the perfect costume for the perfect moment. Saturday morning arrived with the kind of perfect weather that money couldn't buy. I watched from my office as the first of my family members pulled up to the Imperial Grand in their leased luxury cars, trying so hard to look like they belonged. "They're starting to arrive," James reported through the intercom. "Your aunt just tried to demand an early check-in. When we told her the rooms weren't available, she asked to speak to the owner." I smiled, adjusting my old housekeeping uniform. "And what did you tell her?" "That the owner would definitely be making an appearance today." I glanced at the security feeds showing the hotel lobby. Aunt Diana was holding court near the marble fountain, gesturing dramatically as she complained about the room situation. Victoria stood beside her, tapping away on her phone, probably writing another scathing review. My parents had just walked in, my father in his expensive suit, my mother dripping with borrowed jewelry. "The ballroom is ready," James continued. "One table, one chair, spotlight positioned as requested. And the documentation?" I patted the thick folder on my desk. "All here. Every insulting text, every mocking email, every social media post where they bragged about excluding me, plus the hotel's guest records showing their history of entitled behavior. And, of course, the ownership documents. Your sister Lily just arrived too. She's in position with her camera." "Perfect." I picked up my phone and sent a message to the family group chat. "Hope you all enjoy your time at the Imperial Grand. The service here is excellent." The responses were immediate and cruel. "Aunt Diana, how would you know? They'd never let someone like you through the door." "Victoria, stop being pathetic. You clean rooms at the Holiday Inn." "Mom, Sophia, please don't make a scene. We're trying to have a nice family gathering." I watched on the security feed as they read my message, laughing among themselves at my expense one last time. "Start phase 1, I instructed James. Within minutes, the front desk began informing arriving family members that their room reservations had been cancelled. No, there weren't any other rooms available. No, they couldn't speak to a manager. No, their status as prestigious guests didn't matter. The chaos was glorious to watch. Aunt Diana's face turned purple as she demanded to know why her confirmed reservation was gone. Victoria burst into tears when she learned she wouldn't have a suite to change in before the reunion. My father tried throwing around legal threats, only to be politely informed that the Imperial Grand had excellent lawyers. "Phase 2, I commanded, watching the drama unfold. The staff began herding my increasingly agitated family members toward the grand ballroom. As the double doors opened, their excited chatter died. Instead of the lavish setup they'd expected, instead of the round tables dressed in silk, the crystal centerpieces, the champagne fountains, they found a dark room with a single spotlight illuminating one chair. "There must be some mistake," I heard my mother say, her voice shrill with embarrassment. "No mistake, Mrs. Morton," James replied smoothly. "Please, everyone take turns standing in the spotlight. The owner insists. This is outrageous." Aunt Diana screeched. "Do you know who we are? I demand to speak to the owner immediately." "Your wish is granted," I said, stepping into the ballroom. The silence was deafening. 40 pairs of eyes turned to stare at me, standing there in my old housekeeping uniform, holding my folder of documents. "Sophia." My father's voice cracked. "What are you doing here? And why are you dressed like that?" "Like what, Dad? Like a failure? Like someone beneath you?" I walked slowly toward the spotlight. "Like someone who doesn't deserve to be part of this family?" "If this is some kind of joke," Aunt Diana started, but I cut her off. "Oh, it's not a joke. Though I have to admit, watching you all throw tantrums about your cancelled reservations was pretty amusing." Understanding began to dawn on their faces as I continued walking, my voice carrying in the perfect acoustics of my ballroom. "You see, Aunt Diana, the Imperial Grand does have very high standards. We don't tolerate guests who abuse our staff. We don't accept expired credit cards. And we certainly don't cater to people who think money equals class." "What are you talking about?" Victoria demanded. "You're just a maid." I reached the spotlight and turned to face my family. "Actually, I'm the owner of the Imperial Grand and the entire Imperial Hospitality Group. All 15 luxury hotels across 3 continents." The folder opened with a satisfying thwack in the silence. "Let's review some history, shall we? Here's you, Aunt Diana, calling me a failure for dropping out of law school. Here's you, Victoria, mocking my servant's job on Facebook. Here's you, Dad, telling me I wasn't your daughter anymore because I chose hospitality over law. I pulled out the ownership documents, letting them see the numbers, the acquisitions, the empire I'd built while they were busy looking down on me. That's impossible, my mother whispered. What's impossible, Mom? That your failure daughter now owns the most exclusive hotel in the city? That the person you wouldn't invite to family gatherings could buy and sell this entire family 100 times over? But the rooms. Aunt Diana sputtered. Cancelled. On my orders. Just like this reunion is cancelled. I smiled, enjoying the way they flinched. The Imperial Grand does have standards after all. We don't host events for people who discriminate against service workers. You can't do this. Victoria wailed. All my friends are coming. This is humiliating. Humiliating. I took a step closer. Like being told you're not good enough for your own family? Like being excluded from every gathering because you embarrass them? Like having your life choices mocked and degraded for years. Security, I called out, and James appeared with his team. Please escort everyone out. If they resist, we have excellent documentation of their past behavior at other hotels. I'm sure the press would love to hear about it. Sophia, please, my father tried reaching for me. We can talk about this. Like you talked to me when I needed support? When I was working 3 jobs to learn this business. When I was building something real while you were all playing pretend with your rented luxury and maxed out credit cards. The security team began herding my shell-shocked family toward the exits. I could hear Aunt Diana's protests, Victoria's sobs, my mother's pleas, but they meant nothing now. Oh, and one more thing, I called after them. The champagne you ordered? The one you thought was complimentary? I'll be sending the bill to each of you. With a service charge. After they were gone, Lily emerged from her hiding spot, camera in hand. That was epic. But, are you okay? I looked around the empty ballroom, remembering all the times I'd been told I wasn't good enough to be in places like this. I'm perfect. Later that night, I changed back into my usual clothes and sat in my office, watching the sunset paint the city gold. My phone had hundreds of missed calls and messages from family members, ranging from angry to apologetic to manipulative. I deleted them all. The next morning, every major society column in the city ran the story. Hotel Empire owner reveals identity, cancels family reunion over discrimination. The articles detailed my journey from maid to magnate, celebrating the very path my family had ridiculed. My aunt's social circle was devastated. My father's law firm partners were shocked. Victoria's friends couldn't stop talking about it. The family that had worked so hard to maintain their image of success was exposed as frauds by the very person they'd rejected. 1 week later, I received a letter from my father. Inside was a formal invitation to join the family law firm as a partner. I sent back a housekeeping uniform with a note. No thanks. I prefer owning buildings to renting offices in them. The Imperial Grand continued to thrive, its reputation for excellence growing stronger. I made it a policy to hire and promote people who, like me, wanted to learn the business from the ground up. Every new employee heard my story not as a tale of revenge, but as proof that true success doesn't come from family names or inherited privilege. Sometimes, late at night, I'd put on my old uniform and walk the halls of my hotel, remembering the girl who learned every aspect of the business while her family mocked her choices. She wasn't a failure. She was a founder. And now everyone knew it. The Morton family never held another reunion at a luxury hotel. They couldn't. They'd been blacklisted by every high-end property in the country. Apparently, other hotel owners appreciated my story. Some even framed it in their offices as a reminder that success doesn't always wear designer labels. As for me, I kept that spotlight in the ballroom. Sometimes during hotel tours, I'd tell new employees about the day I stood in it, wearing a housekeeping uniform, teaching my family that they'd been wrong about me all along. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about showing them, showing everyone, that true worth isn't about who you were born to be. It's about who you choose to become. And I chose to become something they never imagined. Successful on my own terms, in my own way, in an industry they thought was beneath them. The Imperial Grand stood as my testament. Not bad for a failure.
Hi, I'm Dr. Catherine Kate Morrison, and this is the story of how my stepbrother's greed taught him an expensive lesson about underestimating a country vet. Sometimes the person in muddy boots knows more than the one in the designer suit. Morrison Farms wasn't just any cattle ranch. It was home to the most prestigious breeding program in Texas, with bloodlines worth millions. My grandfather started it, my father expanded it, and I dedicated my life to it, becoming a veterinarian specifically to care for our award-winning herd. Everything changed when Dad married Sandra Brooks 6 years ago. She came with a son, Travis, who had an MBA from Harvard and big plans to modernize our traditional operation. From day one, he saw our careful breeding program and individualized animal care as outdated and inefficient. "Kate, darling," he'd say, checking stock reports on his phone while I performed ultrasounds on pregnant heifers, "you're thinking too small. We need to scale up, maximize profits. All this personal attention to the animals is cutting into our margins." What Travis failed to understand was that our reputation wasn't built on margins. It was built on producing the finest cattle in the country. Every rancher knew that a Morrison bloodline meant excellence. Our bulls regularly sold for 6 figures at auction, and our breeding contracts had a 3-year waiting list. But Travis only saw numbers on a spreadsheet. He started pushing Dad to embrace factory farming methods, to treat our operation like a commodity producer rather than the boutique breeding program it was. Dad, impressed by Travis's business degree and corporate swagger, began to listen. I tried to explain why mass production would destroy everything we built. Our clients pay premium prices because they know how we care for our animals, I argued. They're not buying bulk cattle. They're buying generations of careful breeding and individual attention. Travis would just roll his eyes. "That's why you're still playing doctor with the cows while I'm handling the actual business decisions." What they didn't know was that 5 years ago, when I finished veterinary school, my grandfather had set up a separate company in my name, Morrison Genetics LLC. Every valuable bloodline, every breeding contract, every prize-winning animal was registered under this entity. The farm only had a license to use and profit from these genetics, as long as they maintained our traditional breeding standards. Grandpa had seen too many family farms destroyed by modernization. "Protect the bloodlines, Katie," he'd said before he passed. "They're your family's real legacy." The situation came to a head at last month's Texas Cattlemen's Association Awards dinner. Our prized bull, Thunder Spirit, had just won Grand Champion, adding another $1 million to his breeding value. Tragus saw dollar signs, but he didn't understand what made Thunder Spirit special. The next morning, he convinced Dad to call a family meeting. "It's time for Morrison Farms to enter the modern era," Travis announced, standing in our family room in his Italian suit, looking out of place among the worn leather furniture. "I've drawn up a modernization plan that will triple our production capacity." He laid out his vision, selling off our overvalued prize bulls, replacing them with quantity over quality, turning our carefully managed pastures into high-density feeding operations. "Dad has agreed to sign over controlling interest to me," Travis continued, smirking in my direction. "We need decisive leadership, not someone who spends all day playing vet with the animals." I watched as Dad signed the papers, Travis's mother Sandra beaming beside him. 20 years of my life's work, being handed over to someone who saw our animals as nothing but numbers on a balance sheet. "Don't worry, Kate," Travis said condescendingly. "We'll still need a vet on staff, as long as you learn to work more efficiently. No more of this individual care nonsense." I stood up quietly. "I'll need to check on Thunder Spirit. He has a breeding collection scheduled for tomorrow." "Whatever," Travis waved his hand dismissively. "Just make sure all the paperwork is ready for when I take over next week." We've already got buyers lined up for some of these overpriced animals. I drove my truck out to Thunder Spirit's pasture, where he grazed with his carefully selected herd. Pulling out my phone, I made a call I'd hoped I'd never have to make. "Dr. Williams, it's Kate Morrison. Remember that contingency plan we discussed? It's time." The next morning dawned bright and clear. Travis arrived early, ready for his first official day as the new head of Morrison Farms. He had buyers coming to look at Thunder Spirit, planning to sell our champion bull for quick cash. His new Range Rover kicked up dust as he drove to the main barn, already talking on his Bluetooth about modernization plans. He was so busy looking at his tablet that he didn't notice something odd. The pastures were empty. I sat in my clinic office, calmly drinking coffee, waiting for the storm to hit. "KT," Travis burst through my door, face red. "Where are the cattle? Where's Thunder Spirit?" I looked up from my medical records. "Oh, they're safe. Morrison Genetics LLC moved them to our new facility last night." "Morrison? What? What are you talking about?" I pulled out a folder and slid it across my desk. 5 years ago, Grandpa created a separate company to protect our bloodlines. Every valuable animal on this farm, their genetics, offspring rights, breeding contracts, they're all owned by my company. The farm only had a license to use them as long as certain conditions were met. Travis snatched up the papers, his hands shaking. "This is impossible. The farm owns the cattle. The farm owns some basic stock," I corrected him. "But Thunder Spirit? His entire breeding line? The embryos in our lab? The $1 million breeding contracts? They all belong to Morrison Genetics. Check the registration papers." The color drained from his face as he frantically flipped through documents. Every major asset he planned to sell was legally owned by my company. "Dad," he shouted, pulling out his phone, "we have a problem." Dad arrived 20 minutes later with Sandra and Tal. I'd already laid out all the documentation: breeding registries, genetic patents, contract agreements. Everything Grandpa and I had quietly put in place to protect our legacy. The farm only had a licensing agreement, I explained to Dad gently. It expired the moment you signed over control to someone planning to abandon our breeding standards. "You underhanded little," Sandra began, but Travis cut her off, his business mind finally grasping the situation. "How much?" he demanded. "How much to buy the genetics company?" I smiled. "It's not for sale. But I have a counter offer." I laid out my terms. I would lease the genetics and breeding rights back to the farm, but only under specific conditions. I would have full control over the breeding program. No mass production. No selling off bloodlines. We would maintain the standards that made Morrison cattle the best in the business. "And if we refuse?" Travis asked through gritted teeth. "Then I take my company, my cattle, and my contracts elsewhere. The buyers you lined up? They're not paying premium prices for the farm. They're paying for our bloodlines. Without them, Morrison Farms becomes just another commodity ranch." Dad sat heavily in a chair, looking suddenly old. "Katie, why didn't you tell me about this? Would you have listened, Dad? You were so impressed by Travis's modern business ideas, you forgot what made our farm special in the first place." The next few weeks were tense. Travis tried to fight it legally, but our documentation was ironclad. In the end, they had no choice but to accept my terms. Thunder Spirit and the rest of our prize herd returned to their pastures. I took over the breeding program completely, while Travis focused on the farm's basic operations under my supervision. Last month, at the National Cattle Show, we won 5 championships. Travis stood awkwardly at the celebration dinner as buyers praised our commitment to traditional breeding excellence. "You planned this all along, didn't you?" he asked later, watching me tend to a newborn calf. All those years of playing the simple farm vet. "I wasn't playing anything," I replied, checking the calf's vitals. "I was protecting our legacy. These aren't just assets on a spreadsheet, Travis. They're living creatures, and they're our responsibility." Yesterday, Dad came to my clinic, looking at my wall of veterinary degrees and breeding awards with new eyes. "Your grandfather would be proud," he said softly. "He always said you were the one who truly understood what we were building here." The farm continues to thrive, though differently than Travis had planned. He's learning slowly that some things can't be reduced to profit margins. Sometimes he even helps with the cows, though he still refuses to wear boots. Last week, a young farming student asked me why I didn't just take my cattle and start fresh somewhere else. I showed her Thunder Spirit's newest calf, already showing his sire's championship potential. "Because this land isn't just dirt and grass," I told her. "It's generations of dreams, hard work, and dedication." Sometimes protecting a legacy means standing your ground, even if you have to be sneaky about it. Morrison Farms remains a family operation, just with a clearer understanding of who really runs things. And if you look carefully at the new sign by our front gate, you'll notice something interesting. Morrison Farms, in proud partnership with Morrison Genetics LLC. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about winning, it's about preserving what matters, even if you have to outsmart a Harvard MBA to do it.